Today marks a little over 5 years since the arrival of the COVID-19 pandemic around the world.
Today, Parker Boyd spoke with a local health physician about how far we've come.
Laura Liz, I also caught up with some New Orleans residents who had their brush with COVID several years ago. They say the pandemic made them stronger. As New Orleans resident Nina Vestal spends her Friday afternoon watching tulips blossom in City Park, she remembers the impact COVID-19 had on the world.
We were floundering as a society.
Vestal remembers catching COVID shortly after the pandemic began over 5 years ago. She says it was the sickest she's ever been in her life.
I almost wound up in the hospital. But I'm generally a healthy, active person, but I don't really get things.
The sight of people walking around the park together lets her know that things are back to normal. However, she says her fears of the virus still linger.
I think you need to be careful if you're older.
Kelvin Rousset remembers how the virus spread through his family.
I was pretty much the last in my family to contract them. My wife, my kids, my grandkids, they all had it.
It's unbelievable that it's only been 5 years because it feels so much longer.
Health physician Dr. Hector Cabrera says he remembers when the virus began to spread in New Orleans after Mardi Gras in 2020. Studies show that cases aren't as high in 2025, but Cabrera says the virus is still out there.
The people we are still very concerned about are those at high risk for complicated disease, like pneumonia or ending up in the hospital.
The Centers for Disease Control says the percentage of national COVID deaths over the past year sits at less than 2%. Residents here at home say the virus has taught them to take care of themselves.
I mean, I certainly respect people that still want to wear masks if they have some fragility about them.
I'm well vaccinated. I've had the flu shot, shingles, you name it.
Dr. Cabrera says he thinks vaccines will prevent COVID-19 from intensifying again.
Our immune systems now know it and recognize it. It's important to learn lessons from our experience. At the beginning, we were figuring it out. There's so much to analyze and so much that wasn't known that now we know.
The beauty of the tulips reminds Vestal of how far the world has come since 2020. She says the pandemic increased her will to live without fear. And Dr. Cabrera stresses that elderly people should stay on top of those vaccinations. He also urges you to get your flu shots as influenza cases remain high across the country.